Egyptian satellite there. Flights 8 through 12 were a series of 5 Starlink missions. Those were Starlink 4-5 on July 24th, 4-27 on, or excuse me, there we go, one behind. There we go. 4-27 on August 19th, 4-36 on August 20th, 5-1 on December 28th, 5-4 on February 12th, 2023. The 13th flight came on March 9th, 2023. That was the OneWeb 17 mission, launching a batch of 40 of OneWeb's broadband internet satellites. This would be the third and final dedicated launch of OneWeb satellites for SpaceX. OneWeb completed its Gen 1 constellation with a launch from the Indian Space Research Organization. Fun fact, those satellites were actually built right here on Merritt Island at the Airbus OneWeb satellite facility. Actually right across the street from Blue Origin's rocket factory, where they are working on their New Glenn heavy lift vehicle right now. Next launch of this booster was for the Arabsat 7B, also known as Badr 8 mission, launched on May 27, 2023. Telecommunications satellite was built by Airbus for Arabsat. Now provides C and KU band coverage for Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia. And flights 15 through 19 were all Starlink missions. Those were 6-7 on July 8th, Group 6-23 on October 18th, 6-30 on November 28th, 6-38 on January 29th, 2024, and 6-44 on March 16th, which of course helping to eliminate the risk for creating space debris on this mission. Two-thirds of the rocket is made up by the Falcon 9 first stage. This booster has flown 19 times before, going for the big 20 today. Tail number 1062 in the SpaceX fleet. At the base of the first stage are the 9 Merlin engines, which burn rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen, producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Around the engine compartment are those black carbon fiber landing legs that will be used to land the first stage on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. Above the first stage is the inner stage. It's a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core, which is surrounded by carbon fiber. In the image you see there on the right-hand side of your screen are those deployable hypersonic grid fins. They are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back through the atmosphere tail first like a big old dart towards the drone ship. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches that attach to the second stage. At first stage management cutoff, high-pressure helium is used to release those latches, and 4 pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. The second stage engine nozzle is also housed safely inside the inner stage adapter until stage separation. Speaking of that second stage, the upper stage, powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine, or an MVAC engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle which is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space, hence the name. It produces more than 200,000 pounds of thrust, and it will be fired twice on today's flight, placing the 23 Starlink satellites into their intended orbit. And it burns the same propellant mix, kerosene and liquid oxygen, same as the first stage. And again, it will ignite a third time as a deorbit burn, driving that upper stage back into the atmosphere where it will burn up, helping to eliminate the risk of creating unnecessary space debris. Finally, up top are those payload fairings made up of a carbon composite material. They are 13.1 meters or 43 feet tall, 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet in diameter. The 2 halves of the payload fairing will be recovered a little further downrange from where the first stage lands on the drone ship. They gently splash down into parachutes, and the recovery vessel Doug is going to be on standby to scoop them up out of the Atlantic waters, return them back to Cape Canaveral, where they will be refurbished and reused. We're now T-minus 6 minutes, 33 seconds and counting. We're about 30 seconds into the point where SpaceX is thermally conditioning the yes, the Merlin engines on the Falcon 9 first stage, blowing a little bit of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps. And as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, our friend Pete Carson's with Max Q Productions, helping to provide tracking views of the Falcon flight tonight. And we do have some spectacular views of our own satellite of Earth right here. You're looking live at our very own moon, which put on quite the show at the beginning of the week with a total solar eclipse that spanned from Mexico up through Canada. Gave more than 31 million folks living in the path of totality, in addition to many other people, quite the stellar show. We actually had a good conversation about this process during our live News from the Press site show earlier today. We were fortunate to be joined by Elizabeth Howell, reporter with Space.com, and friend of the network here, Bill Harwood with CBS News. So if you haven't already, you can go ahead and check that video out. It is up on YouTube right now. You can watch the video if you have the time. It's about an hour long. Or if you got some errands to run, you can just go ahead and pop it on in the background, listen to it more podcast style as you're going about your day. We're T-minus 4 minutes, 52 seconds and counting. At this point, we're just about to start piping in some SpaceX mission audio as pad views from the rocket are coming into us now.
Strong back retract has started.
You heard that call out that the strong back retract sequence is underway. The clamp arms are opening up just underneath the payload fairings, and then as you see here, the transporter erector reclines a degree and a half away from the vehicle, stays in that position until liftoff, at which point it will pull back in a much more rapid fashion to clear the way for that vertical climb. We're coming up on the 3-minute mark before liftoff. Want to thank the more than 44,000 of you who are joining with us live. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button. Allow some more folks to find their way to this live coverage as we come into the final minutes of the count.
Stage 1 LOX load complete.
Good call out from SpaceX. The last fueling milestone will be to wrap up liquid oxygen load on the second stage. Should come in about the next 30 seconds or so. In the meantime, want to thank a few more folks for their support while we have a moment here. Want to thank Aerospace Rocketry for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Aerospace. Saying great job to you all. Really enjoy the channel. Bob Witter with the $5 super chat, one of our wonderful channel members, saying we are so lucky to have the best commentator. Makes us all smarter. That's very kind of you, Bob. Really appreciate that. And Dustin P. Craig for a $10 super chat as well. Thank you, Dustin.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
And with that call out, the Falcon 9 is now fully fueled with 1 million pounds of propellant. Is preparing to take off in the next minute and a half. That's why we'll briefly welcome John Beasley to channel membership at the pad leader level and remind our channel members that you have the ability to watch this launch in 4K. as is the case with all of our channel members. We will come back to your support on the other side of the launch, but we are less than 2 minutes away, so we're going to keep our
Ground
focus
gas closeout.
on the vehicle. The call for ground gas closeouts, one of the final steps before liftoff this evening. As we come in on the final minute. At T-minus 45 seconds is the point at which the SpaceX launch director will give their go for liftoff. As a point of note, you see our countdown clock at the upper right-hand corner of the screen.
Falcon9 is in startup.
A little bit different than what you see there at the bottom of your screen. Oh, you can see the moon actually just off to the left-hand side from this shot. It's lovely framing. Our clock is in real time. The number you see there from SpaceX as we hear the go for launch. You'll see that again, but that is on a slight delay. We are 30 seconds from liftoff. $20 seconds. And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition. And liftoff. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket, this first stage booster climbing above the skies of Florida for a 20th time. B-1062 becomes the flight leader for SpaceX. Now 20 seconds into flight for this 20-time flying booster. Now about 40 seconds into flight, let's listen to the roar of those 9 Merlin engines. Falcon 9 now traveling faster than the speed of sound and getting some great views from our tracking camera here at the press site. It's passed through Max Q. Some great images from our friend Pete Carson's with Max Q Productions. We're coming upon a number of events in fairly rapid succession here in about a minute or so. The call for MVAC engine chill. They are thermally conditioning the Merlin vacuum engine before it ignites. At T plus 2 minutes 26 seconds will be main engine cutoff for MECO. That'll be followed shortly by stage separation, second stage engine start. The fairings will deploy a little after 3 minutes into flight. Some great views from P. Carson's here. Less than 10 seconds from MECO now. There you see MECO. Stage separation. And ignition of that Merlin. And some views from the Falcon 9 onboard cameras there on the right-hand side of your screen. Again, because the SpaceX feed is on a slight delay, that's why we're seeing those events a hair later than what we're seeing in real time. You can see the hypersonic grid fins deploying there on the Falcon 9 first stage. And on the left, views from Pete Carson's, you see those payload fairings deploying now. And the same thing from the Falcon 9 onboard feeds. Those Starlink satellites now exposed to the vacuum of space for the first time in this flight. And you see the payload fairings just drifting off screen. Some great tracking work by Pete and Adam tonight. Now coming up on the 4th minute into flight here. The next milestone coming up will be the first stage entry burn beginning. That burn lasting
stage is trajectory nominal.
About 24 seconds or so. With the skies as clear as they are, we may be able to see the entry burn from our ground cameras here. I'll have to stand by to see if that is in fact the case tonight. See some stars streaking by in Pete's view. So far, everything appearing to be nominal with this mission so far. Now a little more than 5 minutes into flight. As you'll likely notice, SpaceX is toggling between a couple different views on the upper stage Merlin vacuum engine. The reason for that is they use those two views to keep an eye on both sides of the engine in case there are any issues that crop up during flight. Now a little more than 5.5 minutes into this mission, we are now less than 30 seconds away from the entry burn beginning. A little more than 6 minutes into flight, coming up on that entry burn, just a few seconds. And Pete's got that entry burn. Well done.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Great views of the track or the entry burn tonight from Pete Carson's with Max Q Productions, and in our tracker, Adam's got it as well too. End of the entry burn there in real time.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Good call outs from SpaceX.
Stage 1 trajectory nominal.
The flight termination system on the Falcon 9 upper stage has been deactivated. It is no longer needed at this point in the mission. You could see with that entry burn completed, the Falcon 9 first stage traveling increasingly slower. You see that at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, the speedometer plummeting rapidly. Coming up at T plus 8 minutes and 5 seconds.
Stage 1 transonic.
Is when the first stage landing burn will begin. It's coming up in just a little over 10 seconds from now. As you heard, the first stage traveling below the speed of sound. Now 8 minutes into flight.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And there you see the start of the landing burn. We'll be getting views from the from the drone ship on the right-hand side of your screen momentarily.
Landing led deploy.
And for a 20th time,
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
you heard it there. You see it with your eyes. Booster 1062 has successfully landed on the drone ship, a shortfall gravitas.
MVAC shutdown. Nominal orbit.
And with those good callouts, congratulations to SpaceX